This is my pollinator habitat project book, and this all started 4 years ago, working with our little preschool children. This is where the story begins.
And what gave you the initial idea? Was it the kids, or was this something that kind of came?
I always have loved working outside in the garden. I love nature. I love butterflies and insects. So it just came naturally that I wanted to pass this great information on to the children. They're only 3 and 4 years old, but they are so eager to learn and observe, and they just are like a little sponge taking in all that information. Well, it all started 4 years ago, and we have the Creative Kids Preschool. They're 3 and 4 years old. We wanted to release our butterflies. In class, we studied a lot about nature, but we really focused on the monarch butterfly. And we did have the painted lady butterflies and the monarch butterflies that we raised from little caterpillars. So we had these butterflies, and we really didn't have a place to release them. We wanted to release them where there was maybe a lot of flowers and places where they could go and get their nectar. And so I went to Tom Schmitz, our Park and Rec director, and asked him what possibilities there are. And he said that there was an undeveloped park out on North Broadway that we possibly could use. There was no money in the funding, and there is no labor, so we had to be creative and do what we could do to create this park. So we did get together with DNR, and they helped me with ideas. We took a walk around the park, and we saw that there were a lot of natural pollinators down the sloped area, but up here it was all sod. And it was mentioned that there was a possibility I could do a Pheasants Forever grant request. So that's where the story began. I got busy and wrote out a request, and we did get the approval where we had some money, and we could purchase plants and seeds and t-shirts for a volunteer day. So with that, we were so happy to know that there was a possibility that we were going to plant. So we had all kinds of activities in our classroom. We would wrap the kids up like they were a chrysalis. We made butterfly chalk. We talked about the importance of bees and other insects too, and what we can do to help them. So after the Park and Rec Commission did approve that we could use this wonderful undeveloped park for a pollinator park, we had to do some planning. So we got together. Oh, and this is where the butterfly preserve was approved. So that was an article in the journal. Really nice to have that information out to other people so they can know that, oh, hey, there's something going on. There's going to be a pollinator park. We've got to drive by and check this out. So when we did start out, all this area was just mowed turf grass. And I don't think the park was really used for anything. Maybe kids came over to fly their kites. That was about all that it was used for. We did do a little advertising where we had some children come with little swamp milkweed plants. And that was a start that we were going to plant in our garden. We also did a bison stomp. We had all of the children from the AM class and the PM class come and do a bison stomp at the park. It was November, but it was a beautiful day. It was like 75 degrees. So we spread milkweed seed, and the children stomped those seeds into the ground like the bison did many, many years ago. And they just loved it. So this was just kind of a preview. That wasn't the actual planting of our gardens, but it gave the children an idea of, okay, we're going to plant these seeds, and that's why we have so many milkweed plants here in the park. Then we went to the Park and Rec Commission, and got their permission. They voted unanimously to let us develop this into a park, dig up the sod, and plant pollinator plants. Pheasants Forever was wonderful. They really helped guide us and tell us, okay, we need plants for the spring, the summer, and the fall, so that these insects have food during their entire time during the growing season. We did have a plant list. We received our plants, or purchased our plants from Minnesota Native Landscape, and they gave us a very nice variety of pollinator plants.
Fantastic.
I also did do another grant for Monarch Watch, and they donated 128 milkweed plants. All we had to do was pay for the shipping, so that was cool. This is a very basic idea of what do we want our park to look like. When people come into the park, what do we want them to see? So one of the DNR personnel drew this up in just a basic loop like we have, but different areas where we can have taller plants, smaller, shorter plants, and trees and shrubs. We had like 1,000 plants to plant. And where do you begin? DNR did kill the turf. As you can see, all the grass is pretty much dead. Then they came with a drill and drilled special holes specified by DNR, Megan and Molly. And they drilled holes, and then we spray painted those holes different colors to coordinate with the plant trays. So here was our pollinator plants came, and we painted the side of the tray either orange for tall plants or blue for shorter plants or yellow for medium plants, so that the volunteers would know, okay, where should I plant this? Can I just put it anywhere? So this made it very simple for them. The holes were already pre-drilled. They just had to take the plant plugs out, put it in, and tamp the dirt around, and they were done. Then we also had mulch all around, and after all of the plants were planted, then we put mulch around each plant. And that really seemed to help with our labor. Journal coverage of the volunteers. Each volunteer got a fluorescent orange t-shirt to wear and keep. So we had 70 plus volunteers come, and I had some of my students and their parents and grandparents came and helped plant. So it was really, really fun. Young and old came for the volunteer day, so that was awesome to see too. We worked on, I had a grant through Walmart to help provide for the materials for the Pollinator Park at Washington School. So that's kind of where it started moving on and spreading. And individual people would even come up to me and say, can I plant a pollinator garden? I said, you sure can. It does not have to be huge. You know, it can be as little or as big as you want. Just to have a nice, diverse pollinator plant to attract those insects. This was the fall of 2016. You can see how the pollinator plants are thriving already. We were so thrilled to have everything look. We did lose a few plants naturally, but all in all, it was a great success. The volunteers were wonderful, and I know there's many people that have come back to the park to check to see how their plants are doing that they planted. They know the exact area where they were planted, and they have to check and see, oh yeah, they're doing really well. And then following through the summer of 2017, the plants just continued to thrive. We did find a few monarch caterpillars, which was a good sign. And we had a volunteer day, and it was like 98 degrees and 99% humidity. It was a very warm day, but it was great to have these volunteers come out and help us. We welcome anybody. If they're not sure if it's a weed or not, then I would recommend just leave it. But otherwise, it's pretty self-explanatory when you see a nice big plant, but there's a lot of grass or something growing around it. How can I start my own garden? Um, there's a ton of information out there, and I know there are quite a few of us that would be willing to help anybody if they want to have just a little area in their garden. Where do they start? Just with a few pollinator plants. So that's where we're working now, is more educating and passing the word and giving out free seeds if you would like some on how can I start my own garden. There's a ton of information out there, and I know there are quite a few of us that would be willing to help anybody if they want to have just a little area in their garden. Where do they start? Just with a few pollinator plants.